Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
You are tuned in to the FowlWeather Podcast, the forecast to your next successful hunt. Coming to you from the home office, Jacks Reef, New York.
The Polar Vortex is primed to unleash the coldest we've seen in decades during November and December. But will it all come to be? The atmosphere is primed, and the FowlWeather Podcast team details the howling winds, the squalls, Alberta Clippers, noreasters, the Jacks Reef Lake Effect, and all that makes ducks move south. Man, wishing you all the best for the season and predicting it all the FowlWeather Podcast way. Your second installment of the long-term forecast and your duck migration forecast for the coming week. All today and more on the FowlWeather Podcast. A quick reminder to rate, follow, and like the FowlWeather Podcast to get all the latest updates and our exclusive duck migration forecast each Monday morning throughout season, plus all of our informative content throughout the year. Be the guy with the real information about the ducks and where the ducks are at. We appreciate you all very, very much. We thank our every week listeners. You know who you are. Those that never miss a single migration forecast episode each Monday morning. Y'all are as ate up as me about ducks, duck biology, and duck migration. You know where the ducks are at before the ducks know where they're at. Think about that. You know where the ducks are at before the ducks know where they're at. Our dedicated weekly listeners can pick the best days to hunt because the FowlWeather Podcast forecasts fresh ducks hot from the north. Shoot the ducks from the north before they know where they're at. I'm your host, DrMike, coming to you from the home office in Jacks Reef. Oh, man. Well, that didn't go so well last week. I did the whole squish the fish on social media, and the bad news comes first. The Buffalo Bills game against the Miami Dolphins was some gross performance. But it is par for the course. Nothing in life is easy. If anything about living in blue-collar, Western New York taught me, it was that life is not easy. Those that work hard make progress. They make a living, they grind it out in this great country, and they succeed. But they also often fail, and they fail a lot. Just like the Bills, sometimes even though no matter how hard they try, they fail. And you have to own that and be okay with failure because the gain in the experience and the learning comes from the failure. If I have learned anything in life, it is that it takes trying and not complaining to make it all happen. To make progress and have a life you want, it takes trying and sometimes losing. First, though, if what you are doing is not working, man, woman, look inwardly. Be introspective. Look at your own life and learn how you can change to make it all better. Also, think of it this way, just the same. If you are not killing ducks, don't direct that towards someone else. Heck, I didn't kill shit this first split, and I own that. That was on me because I was well connected enough to know that folks killed limits that worked for it on public lands. I'm also wise enough in my older age to understand that if you worked for it and you have the finances to own a duck club and grow duck food so you can shoot ducks, well, you earned that, and you decided to make duck habitat and shoot ducks. Good for you. To think otherwise is a liberal idea, that we need more regulations to redistribute ducks to everyone somehow. That, my friends, is a liberal ideology. But oddly enough, that seems rampant in the duck world.
Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the Dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
We have paid into a system that should provide the infrastructure for ducks to be available to just about everyone on public land and public waters for sure. So we should be on board with supporting our national wildlife refuges, the state wildlife management areas, encourage them to deal with the deferred maintenance and build back up the great places the ducks need. But on private grounds, to vilify the person that found the way to be the metaphorical New England Patriots and build a destination for ducks, they should not be vilified. They should be revered. Look, the Bills are always going to be the small market, but you can't deny how amazing the quick comeback of the Patriots was. That is the rub, right? But in a country based on all that is Patriots, how can you hate it? Anyhow, a lot of metaphor going on in that last bit. The main point is that you should likely start to pull your boots up by their straps and get after it duck-wise. Get the duck work done. I've dubbed them the helpless few, and you know who they are. So let's get our shit together and work for the ducks and not be against each other. I don't care how you make it happen. Duck hunting is an awesome experience, and we should all embrace that and keep it with us and keep it running. Stop trolling and start doing it right for the ducks. Anyhow, the good news is that we have 2 fat does hanging in the barn from our Saturday gun opener in New York, with 20 deer seen in total by my wife and I, and only 2 bucks. Right, we smacked down a couple does right in the middle of the rut, and we should have seen a bunch more bucks running, but we've got a messed up buck to doe ratio. We have no worries about balancing that buck to doe ratio in the herd by putting 2 does in the freezer and maybe saving an oak sapling from being eaten. We also got 8 inches of snow last week, which was awesome, and a good push of mallards, but then everything melted, and we've even had thunderstorms last Saturday afternoon. It was a crazy weather week at the farm, but our duck habitat is certainly brought up right and prime. We're getting flooding to feed the ducks as long as we don't freeze out soon. Find out next as we dig into our final long-term forecast, so please stick with us. The Farmland Group is your one-stop shop for real estate brokerage, consulting, management, lending, and appraisal across Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, Louisiana, Georgia, Tennessee, and growing. Contact them today at farmlg.com. Hey, I'm telling you, do not hesitate because these folks are busy buying, selling, and providing consulting and management strategies that build value into your portfolio on your land. So get in the queue today. Get on their radar. Get on their books. Man, y'all won't be disappointed. Contact the Farmland Group today at farmlg.com. That's farmlg.com. How many days have you had empty skies over the duck blind? Your property can be more with wildlife strategies. It is no secret that hiring a consultant, an expert in managing water, woods, and fields, an expert in duck food, an expert in hunting pressure management, hiring a consultant yields better habitat for the critters you chase. Less empty skies, more quality days of field, more smiles for miles with family and friends. If that's your game and goal, contact Ryan Delaney at ryan@farmlg.com for a site visit. Beckman Game Calls has it dialed in. If you want a duck call that is adjustable to your air pressure and sounds like a duck, this is it. I've blown a ton of different calls in my life, but this one is the real deal. Look, we don't endorse just anything. We are only going to put forward a call that works. The Edison by Chris Beckman of Beckman Game Calls. Yeah, this beauty sounds like a duck. I only know of one published research paper focused on what makes a duck call sound like a duck. Go look me up and you will see that colleagues and I have the only paper published in scientific literature about what makes a duck call sound like a duck. For sure, Chris Beckman did his homework and this call sounds like a duck. This guy knows how to make a duck call, period. But don't just take my word for it. Here's the proof. First, a hen recording, and then the Edison in the big woods of Arkansas. Visit them today at BeckmanGameCalls.com. All right, and a quick reminder, as noted, Beckman Game Calls is closed for the season, but calls are available to purchase at the following locations while supplies last: Edwards Food Giant, Harrisburg, Arkansas, and Presley's Outdoors, Bartonville, Illinois. So a lot has happened in the past few weeks since we ran the numbers and produced our first long-term seasonal migration forecast. First and foremost, the likelihood of a fall, like kind of late fall, sudden stratospheric warming has become a real player in this year's duck season. Okay, so what does that mean? The troposphere is where you and I we would live and see the weather. The clouds, the lightning, and what we perceive as weather. The troposphere goes up about like 6 miles. After that, the stratosphere, which is 6 to 31 miles above us, which honestly is a long ways up. Remember, the atmosphere is like a hamburger. It's just not linear. So the weather we think about and experience across the curve of our Earth is in the troposphere, but the stratosphere has a greater effect sometimes on us. So what happens in a sudden stratospheric warming, or SSW, is that temperatures suddenly spike by 30 to 60 degrees over just a few days in that stratosphere above us. This rapid warm-up disrupts the polar vortex, weakens it, and makes it wobble or stretch and spread cold air south into kind of southern latitudes. So basically what happens in a SSW is a sudden stratospheric warming is it sets up a scenario for cold air to push out of the Arctic, and our prediction right now for the near term is that we will see the setup over the Pacific Northwest and into the prairies starting just before Thanksgiving and into Thanksgiving week, but thereafter the Foul Weather Podcast prediction is for a shift for additional cold to spread beyond the prairies down into the mid-continent as far as Colorado, Kansas, and Missouri, but also into the Great Lakes and Northeast. These will be a bow-shaped event with below-average temperatures in the middle of the continent going from just after, I'd say, Thanksgiving into mid-December. We also expect major lake effect events throughout most of the Great Lakes region in areas that normally get southwest, west, and northwest wind lake effect events. The winds will vary among these angles, but rarely angle full south during these SSW events. I do have to admit, though, our own attempt to make heads or tails of this forecast are difficult because several models are pushing different directions. But right now, the Euro, or the European model, and the GFS, which is the US or North American model, are in agreement about major disturbances in the atmosphere starting in the west with a nudge just going east just before Thanksgiving and thereafter into mid-December for the bulk of Duck Country, USA, into the Mississippi and Atlantic flyways. So a bit of this is more near-term than long-term, but is part of the larger atmospheric setup for, I think, the thing that we're going to see all year. I am still very bullish on the late November and early December push with a major warm-up for much of the U.S. into January. So this is likely more of an eastern U.S. perspective than elsewhere. The Northwest Western Canada and Canadian and U.S. prairies are likely to remain cold and snowy compared to over towards the Great Lakes and Northeast U.S. into January. In fact, as I stated in our first long-term forecast, the Pacific Flyway is a gem this year with a schedule migration for everyone. We call it a slam dunk, and goodness, we stick by our guns on that one. However, the models all align to suggest a warm and dry southern U.S. in January and a thaw into the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast U.S. at the same time. But it's all likely going to be too late for ducks to have held super strong. The expectation is that the November and December cold and snow will move ducks south better than we've seen in years for the central Mississippi and Atlantic flyways, and that the Mississippi Flyway is going to be the winner kind of chicken dinner. This stands solid with our first long-term forecast migration, but we do continue to caution that after the new year, the likelihood of mild weather conditions in the south of the boot heel of Missouri could make ducks super stale, and local weather conditions and pressure a major factor for the January portion of season. For the central Mississippi and Atlantic flyways, given the past, current, and predicted weather, it is our expectation that most early ducks will have moved into final locales by mid-December this year. Those are the pintails, gadwall, widgeon, green-winged teal, and shovelers. Of course, some of those overshoot their destinations, and they get like kind of south of the boot heel of Missouri, and they just mill around, right? Like there's a lot of southward migration, east-west stuff that happens. These ducks just move around to find the habitat they need once they get south of the boot heel of Missouri. The mallards and black ducks will have mostly moved into respectable locations relative to prior years by kind of that like mid-December year period. But as we've seen in past years, many, many more are going to linger north, and additional movements will happen. But this year, more than others, ducks, including mallards, will have been where they're going to be before the new year. And it will be kind of super important to hunt ducks based on local conditions more than normal. As far as snow cover, the best is the west, or the west is the best, either way you want to say it. In the Pacific Flyway, cold and snow prevail more than normal this year. In the Central and Mississippi Flyways, the snow holds largely in the Canadian prairies until after January, but the La Nina unleashes in February and March with a perfectly timed recharge of the prairies. All right, in no way can this be one and done snow recharge of the prairies, but it looks like a start with the Canadian prairies getting the best of it and the U.S. prairies a little bit just behind. So we're looking at recharge in those wetlands. The Great Lakes looks like a good amount of lake effect in December that will be widespread, but then slowing down in concentrated bands in January. For ducks, this basically means the cold and snow will move ducks south better than past years into January, but there remains concern for a major January thaw that would see lake effect with cold and warm conditions kind of flexing back and forth from each other. This kind of seems consistent with modern day models. Across the flyways, getting after it, my friends, think about this. Duck numbers are down, so please keep your expectations low, but the theme this year has continued to be the same. Ducks should move south on schedule like the past and better than we've seen in the past years. Take advantage of them on the front end because the latter part of the season looks like warm up in the south, and, you know, even with the ducks available, it might not be great. Local weather conditions are unlikely to regularly provide shooting opportunities after the first week of January. So get after them now. Yeah. This long-term forecast, I think, contrasts very strongly with the El Nino year we had a few years past where nothing showed up. So my comment is, we don't have a lot of ducks, but the ducks we got are coming towards you, right? But once we get to January, it's going to be rough. The ducks are coming, kids. Enjoy them. And don't regret any moment. The ducks are coming. As few as they are right now, we all know that those ducks will rebound. I'm optimistic. And the FowlWeather Podcast forecast of snow in the prairies is real, and it is coming. All right. So, all that said, the hay is in the barn. We have gathered the information available and provided the only long-term duck migration forecast available. The hay is in the barn. Winter is coming, and the ducks are coming too. All right, let's roll into this week's forecast right away here and now. It is short because it's basically an extension of the long-term forecast I just gave you. The east is red hot this week, with mallards and black ducks driving south into southern Ontario, New York, and beyond. Fresh mallards and black ducks should move into the latitude of New York all week, but mostly early in the week, but then they get stale. So get out early in the week in the Atlantic Flyway. The early ducks, the pintails, widgeon, green-winged teal, and shovelers are predicted to move in the Atlantic and Pacific flyways all week, but mostly early in the week. The mid-continent, the Mississippi and Central Flyway, ooh, y'all are warm. You saw it. You got into the 70s. It's pretty darn dead this week. It still looks like kind of local weather to make them move, maybe on high winds and weather to shoot some ducks. Mostly the early ducks that you have are what you have in the Central and Mississippi flyways. But new mallards hot from the north, they're going to be rare. As expected, the Iowa latitude picked up mallards last week and lost the early ducks. The transition is happening, folks, from those early ducks in the north moving south, and then finally the mallards moving in. So, theme for all of us this week, other than the Atlantic Flyway, you have what you have, and you get a few fresh ducks trickling south. Coming up is the Thanksgiving week western fronts, and then the eastern North America and post-Thanksgiving and early December cold and snow. Follow the FowlWeather Podcast to find out when to expect ducks hot from the north. My friends across duck country, we are looking the thick of duck season right in the eye. There is no better time of year. Thank you for listening, and as always, may your skies be filled and shoot straight, my friends.
What I bought? A new Blink Mini 2K Plus smart security camera. What I got? 2K clarity sharp enough to see every detail of home when I'm away. Plus audio like I'm in the room, not with my bestie traveling to another city. Plus easy plug-in setup to install faster than skipping through podcast ads. But you'd never skip ads, right? Plus, I got all of this for just $49.99. Blink Mini 2K Plus. Mini camera, max performance. Shop now at Amazon.com/Blink.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah?
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.